Hello, beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. Woo! So anyway, I love you so much, and I'll tell you what, I am home right now. This is my home. You know, Starlight's been working on things in the background, so you know it is kind of funny. I got some thumbnail things going on, and I love making thumbnails. So anyway, I love you so much, and I hope you're getting out in nature like Starlight is. And also, you know, I hope you're really paying attention to what's going on out there, you know. And not only what's going on out there is what's going on inside of you is more important than what's going on out there, you know, on the news or the Hollywood stars. So yeah, what's going on inside of you, you know, you got to really pay attention to that. But anyway, before I get too carried away, is I love you all, and also thank you to all of you who are out there, who have been out there loving and supporting Starlight. Thank you for those of you that watch my videos, give me thumbs up or leave me a comment or even share my videos. If you want to see a change in the world and you want, you know, to help Starlight out by sharing these videos with other people, is going to get these videos out where other people can find them. You know, you could tell your friends, hey, check this Starlight chick out. You know, if there's things that you know that people are dealing with, hey, check this Starlight chick out. She's got a video for you. If you like, I just made a video about, you know, should people really have a baby in this crazy ass world? You know, maybe you know somebody that's wanting to have a baby, you know, and you could watch the video and say, hey, you know, that would be a great video for them, you know, to watch. So or whatever topics that I talk about. So thank you. And also besides that, is if anybody would love to send any love donations, you can through my Cash app, and I will have that information here. Ping, there it is. And also, before I start this video, hello, my name is Starlight. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and you can find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you could give my videos a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, don't forget the notification bell, and you can leave me a message down below, beep, 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 and you can share my videos with your family or friends. Plus, don't forget my playlist, and you can also find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. Now, today, it's about, you know, people need to be more observant. I'll tell you, I am very observant, but guess what? Even Starlight needs to be more observant. And like I said, I'm going to talk about my inside first, you know, about what's going on inside. And because the way society is, society teaches us to ignore these things. Society and people out there, you know, get us so distracted in life and things that don't matter, you know, that, you know, our attention is everywhere but where it really needs to be. And that's really, and this is what I've been doing, I've been working on this, you know, is sitting with myself, you know, not being in a rush, hurrying up, going somewhere. I'll tell you what, if I was in a rush, there would, you know, yesterday, if I was in a rush, and if I don't pray before I get behind the steering wheel, I could have hit a man yesterday in my car. It was not my fault. It would have been a no fault on my end, because the man, you know, where he was on a bike, you know, he was just, you know, I don't know what he was doing, but it was that close. There was another day that I, you know, it's been crazy ever since I was talking about, you know, being careful out there and protect, you know, like about your safety and, you know, on the roads and stuff like that. I'll tell you what, I've almost hit a lady. She was in a spot, you know, it's like she was in the middle of a road on a street, and I was across the road. I didn't know my way around, and there was a vehicle that was blocking, so I couldn't see her. But she wasn't even on the sidewalk. She was in the middle of the freaking road. I couldn't see her from over here, and I had to go right where she was. I had to cross this road here to get to this street here that goes over that way. That's how this setup was. The lady was right smack, right where I belong going, you know? So that's why it's so important to pray. That's why it's so important to pay attention to really what's going on, you know, and slowing down, you know? So that's my message from the universe for me now, right now, is to slow down, you know? And I helped somebody out yesterday about, you know, we get messages all the time, but we're not paying attention to the messages that God has given us and sending us. You know, it could be a person, like, you know, yesterday I was talking to these people, you know, God used me, you know, let them know, is, you know, there's signs all around, but people don't know about it. People are not open to see those signs. Some people are very observant. I am a very observant person, but today I realize I need to be more observant to my surroundings. Like right now, I'm safe, I am protected, I'm out here. So you got to focus on what's going on inside of you. Number one, you know, observe your own, what are your feelings, you know, when you're around people, when you go in, you know, in places, you know, how do you feel? You know, I'll tell you what, I got a story. It's just so crazy, you know, is that I'm learning, the universe is teaching me to really learn to listen to my intuition. We got to be careful about listening to other people. I'm here as a guide, as a life coach, as an influencer. You know, whoops, I got an itch because it might be mosquitoes out here. That felt like a mosquito bite, and it's kind of a rainy day today. So, and sorry, Starlight I'm out here barefoot right now. I got bare feet. So, you know, we need to really slow the blank down, because even myself, I'm not saying I arrived. No, I'm going through training. The universe gives me messages. There's many times the universe gives me messages and I overlook it, you know, because I'm moving. I tell you, you know, when you see animals, they're messengers. They are one of the part of the messengers out there giving you messages, you know, and also your dreams, you know. So, and you got to listen to your body, you know. Listen to your body, you know, is like if you're going somewhere, something doesn't feel right, stop for a minute, you know, just stop. Say, okay, because that's your inner guide. Your intuition is what you need to listen to. And I'm testing things out. I'm like, okay, you know, I notice things sometimes on the outside, you know, sometimes we see something and then we get these feelings, you know, and I was lied to a long time ago. You know, we got to be careful of the kind of people we listen to. I was lied to a long time ago from a pastor, you know, and what it was, he told me, the whole congregation was told this, and this is how this stuff spreads. If we're told the wrong information, that could be with us for the rest of our life, because that person, like between 95 to 2000, you know, that's somewhere when that message got, you know, it was a seed that got planted. He might have thought that he knew what he was talking about, but he didn't. He wasn't a psychologist. He didn't understand it, you know. Like, say, like feelings, you know. This is what he was saying is like, I understand what he was saying, but really it doesn't apply for everything that he was saying, that you can't go by your feelings. And that's so opposite. There's times that we got inner, you know, the deep core of what you feel, you know, is telling us stuff, you know. And this is not about our safety. It's about being more observant out in the world and paying attention, number one, listen to yourself. Listen to what your body is saying. Like when you go somewhere, it could even start like when you go into somebody's driveway. How do you feel when you're going? As you're driving there, is like, how do you feel? As you're, wherever you go, is really sit with yourself. Does it feel cool? What happens is that we get so used to those uncomfortable feelings, and we just do whatever without even thinking what's going on inside of us, because I am guilty. I've put myself in such risk my whole life, because I came from a crazy ass family, and that was the starting of everything. When you're not in a safe environment, you know what, you do all kinds of crazy ass shit out there in the world, because where you came from, where you think, hey, this stuff is normal. It's normal to be risky out there. It's normal to take risk. The risk is good to take at times, healthy risk, facing fears. But there's other risks that are dangerous that could, it could end your life by taking some of those risks. And Starlight was out there. Yeah, I got more than freaking 9 lives, I'll tell you, because I should not even be here. I definitely got angels watching over my ass, that song, angels keep watching over me, my Lord. And they do. They all night and all day, those babies are out here and they are protecting my ass, and I'm so grateful that they are. But you got to ask them to help you out. See, nobody told me that part, so you really got to listen to yourself and pay attention to what, slow the blank down, number one, and really pay attention to, things out in your, the people, pay attention, when you get, a feeling, even like I get these things going on when I go into a gas station and I'm like, ugh, I get a feeling even going into a gas station. If it's a dirty feeling, it's a horrible feeling. Going to the casino place, it's a bad feeling. I've been picking up like eerie feelings, like, ooh, this is something eerie. This morning I went somewhere and it was eerie, like felt like it was off. The energy was off. Whew, I'm sorry. When they bite you, they itch for a while. So sorry. Starlight's like, whoo, they injected something in there. But so you really got to listen to yourself, with what's going on inside of you, and you got to pay attention to the signs outside of you. Like I've been seeing turtles. Sometimes I think, what, I got to look it up. What does it mean when you see a turtle? Well, you know what? Turtles are slow. But I'll tell you what, they can move. Just because they're slow. I mean, I saw 2 turtles yesterday. One was, I gotta look this stuff up before I touch anything these days. I'm learning a lot about nature, and I don't want to screw anything up with the animal friends that I have out here. But one was on its side. It was on its side. And the other one was, on its 4s. And they were both side, like one next to each other. And I was like, oh my. And first thing I was thinking is that maybe something found the turtle and tried to flip it over with its paw, and maybe it just kind of like got stuck like that. So I didn't know. I'm thinking, oh my, he could die if I don't help this turtle out. But I really gotta Google this stuff, because there could be something going on with that turtle. Like I Googled it afterwards. So I did. I put the turtle back on its all 4s, but maybe I should not have done that. But anyway, I got it. So I've been seeing a lot of turtles, and then I had a dream last night. See, I won't move until the universe tells me, But there's times that I could have. You don't want to get ahead of God, is what this is about. You don't want to get ahead of God. If you're doing something and you want to go do something, but it's I want to be right where God wants me. If God wants me to go north, I'll go north. South, I'll go south. East, I'll go east. West. But you know what? I could easily go ahead of God and go in the wrong direction. That's why I got to slow down, So we really got to listen to what's going on out there. And so now it's storytelling time. And it was one thing after another. So this is, I'm telling you, it's going to gross you out. It's going to make you think, oh my, Starlight. Yeah. But it's one of those things. It's done and over with. It was a lesson for my ass, not to let that, I need to, and it's so many lessons all in one pile. So this morning is, I wanted to go out to eat. So the universe helped me out. So I got the money so I could go out to eat breakfast somewhere. And because I am working full time with God, and I get rewarded. Yes, I do have a right to do this because I'm out here putting my neck out on the line to help other people. So anyway, I was looking for a place to go. I don't know anywhere around here, didn't know with these kind of places. So I ended up going, I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant because this can happen at any place. So I went into, at a restaurant name I never heard of. And I'll tell you what, this is what you got to be observant. People are in such a hurry. I want it now and I want it. You know what? Sometimes, it's worth the wait. Believe me. You could put yourself in a situation that, the rest of the week you'd be complaining because you didn't slow down. Is that I pulled up at a restaurant. First sign was bad. Outside was a sign for the restaurant. The sign, it's where they, like churches have this, is that they can take the letters off, and gas stations have it, and then they put letters on, Well, you know what? It was kind of weird because it was a sign that was there from Easter. Like, gee, when was Easter? What? The sign's still up from Easter? What's up with that at a restaurant, So that was odd. That was not a good sign. And then the parking lot, there was really nobody there. That was another 2 signs. And then I get out of my car. I start walking to the restaurant. It's my first time there. And there was a lady that was smoking in her car. I think she was a worker. So she was maybe taking a break. I don't think anybody was there, really. Actually, yeah, I don't think anybody was there. I was the only person that was there at this. It is a big restaurant, though. It's not a small little diner or anything. And so I'm the only one there. And and that was, that didn't look good either, because that says a lot about a restaurant, when nobody else is there. And the workers that were inside, I don't know how, but they ended up coming right out right at the same time as I was almost to the door. So that was not a good sign. Like, why are they coming out? I'm going in, but they are outside, and they greeted me outside the restaurant. Oh, you're coming in to eat? It's so weird. So that was another bad sign. It just was one bad negative thing, and this is what you got to watch out for. And when and it's early in the morning, the day is just starting. First thing, got in the door, the carpet, right when you walk in, is filthy. It is so filthy. I am a cleaner. I pick up on stuff, about cleanliness. And I'm like, got all these workers, nobody's around, but the carpet is filthy. And I'm still pressing forward. And it just gets, it just was one thing after another. The other thing is, one of the workers that was inside, he was like, almost like sleeping at one of the tables. And, it's like I kind of woke him up a little bit. It's like, that's another sign, And then they're like, oh, you could pick any seat. And so I have a habit because I used to clean. I used to clean for a living. I know cleanness. And so I have a habit when I go into restaurants, I always slant my head and have where the light actually shines on the table, and I can spot if they're a clean table or not. And here are all these workers. One's outside, one's sleeping, 2 that just greeted me. I don't know where the cook is. I don't know who the person is. And I'm going like this, scanning all the tables, and I'm like, what the heck? I could see grease marks and all this stuff on these tables. I'm like, I'm sorry, I gotta run. I gotta, would I want to eat there? No, I don't want to eat there. No. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with my food. Okay, now I do go to another place, and it's only right, next door almost. So I go to this place, and there's a lot of cars there, Okay, hey, that's a good sign. There's people actually eating in this place. And I wanted to bring my own coffee because I'm very picky about my coffee. So they let me bring my coffee in because I don't want to, I'm not going to, if their coffee's nasty, I don't want to pay for it. And so anyway, I go inside, and you got to pay attention. When you go in, if people are there cooking, watch what they do. The workers. Pay attention to what they are doing. I can tell we're not in COVID time because, during COVID time, people were on their shit. They were on about germs. People were, they were really on top of everything, cleaning their buildings, paying, cleaners extra money to come in and keep the place clean because they feared losing their business, wherever they were. You didn't even have to have a restaurant, if people, saw something, they were going to say something. And, because of fear really ran the people. And there's still people today that have been affected even from all that time ago. What year was that? That was a long time ago, as far as COVID goes, and there's people still today that have been affected, by still wearing a mask. So there was a lady that was behind the counter going like this with her nose, I do that, you got an itch, you're like, and she's like, and then after that, she blew her nose, never went to go clean her hands. So I was having a hard time this morning, but you know what? Being observant really makes you see things that you don't want to see, things that, people don't pay attention to. And there's other people there eating their, their yummy breakfast, and of course I don't know what this lady does she's there, she's going to be, no matter who is there, they got to have their clean, no matter what they do, they got to have their hands clean. And the cook it's a no-no because I used to work in restaurants, different places, working behind the kitchen. So I'm not no dummy. I have life experience on so many different things to help people out. Even when, this happens with a lot of people that work in restaurants, and they're not even consciously aware of what they are doing. But I wish I had a pair. I do have a pair, but they're buried somewhere. I have containers in here. I'm not going to pull them out for this. But anyway, pretend I have a pair of gloves on right now. Okay, this is what happens to people when they work at restaurants. To me, the best place to eat is right at your house. Of course, Starly. I do love eating out. Don't get me wrong. But the best place to eat is at your house because you know exactly what's going on with all your food. You know what's in it, and you know what's being done with it. Like when I cook for myself, I sample my food and all that. But if you were going to come to my dinner, everything is max. My hands, I'm cleaning my hands all the time. I'm changing the silver. If I taste something, I go get a different spoon, and finish off I'm very, very disciplined and very good at, like, if company's at the house, absolutely not. I'm not licking my spoons and stirring it up, and all that stuff like you would if you're cooking for yourself. So, but now the omelet was the greatest omelet I ever ate, and it's sad. It is really sad. I give them 5 stars for the omelet, but one big ass mistake. You don't do this in a restaurant, and that is people, whether you're aware of this or not, people do this and they're not even consciously aware of it. They think, I got gloves on, so I can, it's great to wear gloves when you're cooking, but, you got to be, people that are working in these restaurants, working around food, so I got some, background on cleaning. I got background on, so you never know who's going to come into a restaurant or a business, no matter, you don't know who is coming inside, so we could see dirt all over anywhere, going out in places, and it's easy to find, out. Of course, it's not COVID time, right? So it was great at COVID time. People had all their stuff cleaned up, it was probably hard for them, they were cleaning things that never got clean, So, but now you definitely could tell, things are far away from what COVID used to, when COVID was here, and this is when things like this happen, and I'm not saying that something is going to happen, but, then we wonder why things like that happen. And sometimes we need to snap out of it, clean back up, get things back into order. And, so anyway, as the man was making this delicious omelet and I ate it, that I right when I saw the guy do what he did, I should have just stopped right there in my tracks. And this is what I'm talking about, is that people are in so much of a rush. And just like Starlight, I'm using myself as an example here, is why we need to slow down. And I'm grateful that we're not this is not COVID time right now, But what the man did, he made a great omelet. But what he screwed up on is with his glove. And some of you are going to say, Starlight, he had his glove on. So I've never, well, of course I never watch anybody making omelets. A lot of times they're in the back of the kitchen, you see the waitress in the front. If you have a way of watching them cook the food, at least you could watch them cook it, I'm watching everything that you're doing. This is why we need to be observant, because you never know. And there's some crazy ass stuff that goes on in restaurants, and I used to work in them. There's a lot of stories, through life that I've heard, and, lawsuits and all that stuff. But what the man did is he put everything on the plate, all nice, And what he did, I couldn't believe it. I was like, no, you just killed the omelet. Is he took his hands that had gloves on, and he just patted down the omelet. I don't know why he did that, but that's what he did. You don't do that. You know why? Because those hands, those gloves, have been touching all kinds of stuff. People are not really aware of really how many things they touch with their gloves. Like if I touch my steering wheel and then started cooking, my steering wheel's dirty, like in the back of the kitchen, like the counter, when he's touching the counter as he's cooking, the counter is dirty. It's got germs. There's something on that counter, hanging on the stuff to cook with, so, the handles are, they've been touched how many times, and then you're going to get stuff on your gloves. And that's, there's people, they want to save on money with gloves, like, hey, watch out with it, like we don't want to spend a lot of money on gloves, but those gloves got to get changed a lot, really, if you're going to eat in a place without having all these germs and stuff like that. So you need, I was observant, but my goof up was that I ate the food, I ate the food. I had every right to tell the man, sorry, I am not interested in eat that omelet. You just took your gloves and pushed it down, like, because that's a big, huge no-no in a restaurant. Some of you might argue with Starlight about that, but I'm telling you, I had to. When I used to work in a restaurant, and I was like, when you go and work for some companies and you find out about germs and how many places germs are, they're everywhere. When you go through training like that and you find out, oh my, if I touch this, it's like, how do you go into a bathroom germ, go in there, use the toilet, clean your hands and get out germ free. I was taught how to do that stuff. It takes a lot of work to do that. And it's almost like you got to carry a paper towel with you, after you clean. If there's paper towels. Now, if there's no paper towels, you're kind of screwed, And they got these darn arm things on the door. Those things suck. I actually try to use those arm things to open up the door. Frig that, man. That door is so heavy, my arms are not used to opening up. I don't know who came up with the arm, to open up the door with your arm. I don't know where that came from, so you really got to be observant, when you're going out. If you can watch them actually cook your food, not all the time you can, so but even the workers, how are they, what are they doing? Was I the only person in there that saw this lady going like this? I do that when I'm, I might have an itch and I'm talking to you, but I'm here with myself. I get to share my germs with me. But it's so important to, be observant to things, when you're going out to eat, when you're going out in public, and I felt stuff, when I seen the sign, my whole body was like, I don't think I want to go in that restaurant. The sign is still there, that I should have just got onto Google and looked for a different place right away. The other place, I really didn't know anything until once I see the lady going like this and blowing her nose and not cleaning her hands. That was so I got restaurant experience and cleaning experience. So you really got to pay attention and be observant and not be in a rush, because you know what? That's when we're going to screw up and we're going to go, we're going to just let shit happen and let it flow. People are in too much of a rush. They want things right away, right now. They don't want to wait. Hang on, I got to roll this window. I could actually roll this one down and this one up. But, so, and you could teach your kids this. Your kids need to learn about being observant. This is how it all starts, is that, teach them about, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? And now I don't know how long this video is. I guess I'm not going to do it because it says 12 minutes here. So I'm going to make another video coming up is about how to strengthen your intuition. It will be a fun video. So that I wanted to add that here because really strengthening your intuition is a great way to be more observant to what's going on out there and pay attention. Listen to what's going on inside of you. When something doesn't feel right, like going to a restaurant and you see these signs, like nobody's, it's a bad sign if there's absolutely no, there was cars at this restaurant that I went to this morning, but they were all the workers. If you walk in and, these days though, a lot of people do order out. But recently I did go eat out, and it was first thing I walked in the door, it was a bad sign. The people that worked there, they were like, taking a breast, and, it's just bad. It's really bad business. It was if I don't tip you, it was because the service really was that bad. And it wasn't like a restaurant, it was just a Chinese restaurant. But, I don't believe in actually tipping people if they don't really deserve it. I am really big on tipping people and really being a blessing to other people. And like the last time, a while back, I gave a man $20 because he did an excellent job. An excellent job. So I am really big on to tipping people, and I take it really serious. Is like at a Chinese restaurant, it's a lot different, or like an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Some of these places, they don't do the full service as far as a waiter goes, or a waitress goes. The ones that are really doing the full service, they actually take your order. They get you the drinks. They're always checking on and seeing how everything, is with your dinner, and, because they really, those ones really need the full, full amount of, whatever to be a blessing to those people. But so we don't have to tip those people that are not, poor service. They need to learn a lesson, because it's like rewarding them to do, a sucky job, and so you really got to listen to yourself and be more observant to what's going on out there. And before it was about safety, this is about other things, about, making sure you get into a restaurant, and if something doesn't feel right when you get there, it's more than likely, a bad, like you're not going to be really fulfilled, when you get, it's great to go somewhere and bam, 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 everything is perfect. And you get done, you feel amazing. The last place I went a while back, I'll tell you what, I went in there, they were not even, there's a lot of places I've gone where they're like doing their own thing. They don't even care if you show up, And a lot of those might be places that people order out, but it doesn't matter. Those people, that's their job. That's why they're there, is to be of service, And I had a lady, I went to a Chinese restaurant. Everything was amazing. When I walked in the door, she had a smile, and she's like, hey, you can sit anywhere you want. And she was such a sweetheart. And she actually helped me to order my meal. I let her know that I have a vegetarian diet, and she, she's like, hey, like, this would be a really good one to try if you like it. That's what, something that, she said. And I said, yeah, I'll go for that. That sounds really good. And, I loved what she, recommended for me to eat. Everything about that place, she did an amazing job. And that's what it's supposed to be, So, not when you, they don't listen to you, and everything's backwards and upside down, a mess, So, anyway, be observant and teach your kids, teach them, like, get them to look around and getting them to pay attention to things. And, because when they get younger, as they grow, they can be more observant and not to fall for stuff, listen to things, a lot of people need to listen what's going on, so anyway, I love you. So I will be having a video about, like, to strengthen. It will be a fun one. It will be a fun one. I was thinking of this today. So anyway, I love you so much. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace. Thank you for watching. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace.